This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Wednesday, January 8th, 2025. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
President-elect Trump threatens to take Greenland and the Panama Canal by military force if necessary. I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
A wind-driven wildfire raging across Southern California, eating up brush and homes in Malibu.
I think the whole town is going to go.
I'm Jim Roope in Los Angeles.
A New York appeals court judge denies President-elect Donald Trump's latest bid to delay Friday's sentencing in his hush money case. Julie Walker, New York.
The release of special counsel Jack Smith's report on President-elect Donald Trump has been blocked by a federal judge. I'm Jeff McKay in Washington.
On Wall Street, stocks are coming off a down day as investors wait for new jobs data. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
More prisoners transferred out of Gitmo. I'm Clayton Neville.
All ahead on America in the Morning. During an hour-long news conference at his Mar-a-Lago estate, President-elect Donald Trump told reporters he would not rule out using military force in order to make Greenland a part of the United States or take back control of the Panama Canal. More on his wide-ranging comments from correspondent John Stolnis.
Trump has mentioned multiple times in the past of his desire to buy or annex Greenland, and more recently has opened up the possibility of taking the Panama Canal back by force if necessary. He was asked if he would rule military or economic coercion out.
No, I can't assure you on either of those two, but I can say this. We need them for economic security. The Panama Canal was built for our military. I'm not going to commit to that now. It might be that you'll have to do something.
Trump repeatedly has claimed that the canal is now being controlled by the Chinese military, a claim Panama denies. Greenland is an autonomous territory of Denmark, and Trump has threatened Denmark with steep tariffs if they don't give up Greenland. Trump was also asked if he was considering using military force to annex and acquire Canada.
No, economic force, because Canada and the United States, that would really be something. You get rid of that artificially drawn line, and you take a look at what that looks like.
The president-elect was joined on stage by his soon-to-be Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff, who expressed optimism about peace negotiations between Israel and Hamas. Trump made clear to Hamas the hostages they continue to hold must be returned to Israel by the time he takes office.
If those hostages aren't back, I don't want to hurt your negotiation. If they're not back by the time I get into office, all hell will break out in the Middle East. And it will not be good for Hamas, and it will not be good, frankly, for anyone. All hell will break out.
And Trump also slammed Mexico, saying that country is run by the cartels and is a very dangerous place. He also claimed his administration will soon change the name of the Gulf of Mexico
to the Gulf of America, which has a beautiful ring that covers a lot of territory. The Gulf of America, what a beautiful name.
Trump also had scorn for Jack Smith, the special prosecutor in charge of the classified documents Mar-a-Lago case, as well as their 2020 election meddling case against him, after a judge blocked the Justice Department from releasing Smith's full report, at least temporarily.
He was thrown off the case in disgrace. Why should he be allowed to write a fake report?
Trump also blasted President Biden's recent executive actions on oil and gas drilling in the Atlantic and Pacific, decried the use of windmills, slow-dripping showers, and electric heaters, and praised Meta's decision to eliminate fact-checkers on Facebook and replace them with user-generated notes, much like Elon Musk's X platform. John Stolnis, Washington.
As a number of states in the Midwest and East are dealing with snow and Arctic temperatures, in California, amid devastating wind conditions, a wildfire erupted across some 1,300 acres of Pacific Palisades near Malibu and continues to burn. Jim Roope reports from Los Angeles.
Several buildings have been destroyed. Roughly 30,000 people remain evacuated as the winds continue to gust 70, 75, 80-plus miles per hour, with sustained winds in many areas 40, 50 miles per hour plus. People trying to get out had to abandon their cars as the fire came right up to them on Sunset Boulevard. LA County Fire had to bring in bulldozers to push those abandoned cars out of the way so first responders could get through. Governor Gavin Newsom saying wildfire season relentless after he toured the devastation.
We were here not too long ago, the Franklin Fire. A few weeks prior to that, the Mountain Fire, November, December, now January. There's no fire season, it's fire year, it's year round. And it's incredibly important that we heed the warnings, the calls, that we're not out of the woods by any stretch of the imagination.
The cause of the fire, unknown at this point. It erupted around 10 o'clock yesterday morning, exploded amid fierce Santa Ana winds that forecasters say could develop into the worst windstorm the Southland has seen in a decade or more. Red flag warnings of critical fire danger expected to be in place until tomorrow evening. For today, many schools are closed or are relocating students to campuses outside the fire zone. Several thousand residents without power, either lost because of the winds or the fire, or shut off by utility companies to avoid sparking wildfires. Even with the extreme winds, and we have been in the peak of these winds since 10 o'clock last night, specially trained pilots and specially equipped aircraft have been continuing to battle this blaze from the air as structure protection continues with crews on the ground. Jim Roope, Los Angeles.
Overnight, officials ordered the evacuation of 30,000 residents from more than 10,000 homes as Santa Ana wind gusts of nearly 100 miles per hour propelled the flames, an area located just 15 miles away from Los Angeles International Airport. The top stories of the day are sponsored by Sleep Number. Sleep better together. It's the lowest price of the season on the top-selling Sleep Number i8 smart bed. Limited time, exclusively at a Sleep Number store. A win for one, a loss on the other. Update on 2 Trump court cases when America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Cold start to the day across the Midwest and Northeast with some strong winds in the Northeast. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Brian Thompson.
It is a cold start to this Wednesday, really from the Midwest all the way over to the Northeast, and especially across the Northeast, parts of the Mid-Atlantic. We're seeing some pretty gusty winds, and that's going to be an issue not just through today, but also into tomorrow as well. We're still going to be talking about winds, especially along the I-95 corridor from Boston down toward Philadelphia, upwards of 30 to even 40 miles per hour. When you factor that in with temperatures that are going to really only top out around or a little above 30 degrees, you're talking about AccuWeather real field temperatures that are in the single digits and teens, even into the afternoon hours. So a very cold air mass setting up across the Northeast for today, where temperatures will mostly be in the teens and 20s. Again, maybe closer to 30 along the I-95 corridor. And even into the Southeast, we're looking at highs in the 40s all the way to the Gulf Coast in Louisiana and Texas. Houston just 44 for a high today in advance of some wintry weather that's going to impact parts of Texas as we head into very late tonight and into tomorrow. But pretty dry across the Southeast today. Where that cold is in the Northeast, there will be some lake effect snow showers that will slow travel in some of the lake effect snow belts, but pretty quiet across most of the upper Midwest and through really most of the plain states. There will be some snow showers from eastern parts of Arizona through parts of New Mexico and West Texas associated with some of that colder air. And some snow in the northern Rockies. Out west, pretty quiet in the northwest. We'll have those dangerous Santa Ana winds across Southern California again. And that's the weather across America. Blustery and quite cold in Cleveland today with a couple of snow showers, high 24. Sunny in Denver, a high of 38. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Brian Thompson.
You can follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. A loss in court for Donald Trump's legal team in New York after an appeals court rejected the president-elect's latest attempt to get Friday's hush money sentencing called off. Correspondent Julie Walker reports.
It was the second time in 2 days that Trump was rejected, though he can still ask other courts to intervene. Before the Tuesday ruling, Trump repeated his claims that the system is rigged against him.
Even to this day, they're playing with the courts. They have their friendly judges that like to try and make everybody happy on the Democrat side. It's called lawfare. It's called weaponization of justice.
On Monday, Manhattan Judge Juan Merchan denied Trump's request to halt proceedings while he appeals the verdict. He also refused to throw out his conviction, but has signaled he's unlikely to sentence the president-elect. Trump's lawyers say he won't be in court for Friday's sentencing. Instead, he'll appear by video. Julie Walker, New York.
The federal judge who oversaw the classified documents case against President-elect Trump has temporarily blocked the release of special counsel Jack Smith's report on that investigation. America in the Morning's Jeff McKay has details.
The injunction lasts 3 days until after the 11th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals rules on a pending request to block the release of the report over a separate matter involving two of Donald Trump's co-defendants, Walt Nauta and Carlos de Oliveira. Their lawyers have asked U.S. District Judge Aileen Cannon to block the report, citing her previous ruling that Smith's appointment was unconstitutional. Cannon, whom Trump nominated to the bench, said her ruling is in place until the higher court rules. The judge who oversaw Trump's D.C. federal election interference case, Tanya Chutkin, has indicated she disagrees with Cannon's decision on the special counsels and believes that Smith was rightfully appointed. Attorney General Merrick Garland was set to release his 2-volume report that was to be submitted by Smith on Friday. I'm Jeff McKay in Washington.
Facebook's Zuckerberg promises to restore free expression. That and more when America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. The Business Report is brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments has a team of specialists in investing, financial planning, estate planning, and more. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Wednesday Business is in with CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street opens this morning after another down day for stocks yesterday and an ugly drop for the NASDAQ of almost 2%. Tech stocks rolled over. NVIDIA fell 6% yesterday. Investors just unsettled as a new administration positions to take the White House.
I think in general, we have high expectations among investors for 2025 market performance with low conviction in the near term about whether, in fact, the policy mix is going to be favorable.
CNBC's Mike Santoli. Bond yields rose yesterday. The yield on the 10-year Treasury hit its highest since last April, and mortgage rates follow that 10-year. The average rate on a 30-year fixed home loan now solidly above 7.1%. President-elect Donald Trump announced a Dubai billionaire will build data centers in 8 U.S. states. Critics worry about national security. Facebook making some major changes. Employees are pushing back. No more fact-checking by outside teams.
Meta Zuckerberg, in a video he posted, the company is scrapping its third-party fact-checking program.
Restoring free expression on our platforms. Here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to get rid of fact-checkers.
The decision comes as Zuckerberg does look to build a relationship with the incoming Trump administration.
CNBC's Carl Quintanilla. McDonald's, the latest company to roll back diversity programs, joining Walmart, John Deere, Harley-Davidson, and more.
In a blog post, the company said it will no longer set, in its words, aspirational representation goals. It will instead continue to embed inclusion practices into its day-to-day business.
CNBC's Joe Kernan. Shares of vaccine makers rose yesterday on news of the first human bird flu death in the U.S. Carnival-owned Princess Cruises, ready for its 60th birthday. It'll sail in December for 2 weeks with the original Love Boat actress Jill Whelan on board to celebrate the brand's longevity. Warner Brothers Max says its popular The Last of Us series will return for season 2 in April. A reminder that the markets are closed tomorrow. It's a national day of mourning for former President Jimmy Carter. On today's watch list, we get a read on December private hiring. That's from the ADP employment report, ahead of the big government jobs report coming Friday morning. We also find out how many people applied for unemployment benefits last week. That number's coming today a day early because the Labor Department and all federal offices will be closed tomorrow for that National Day of Mourning. The minutes from the last Fed meeting will be out this afternoon. Investors comb through those for hints on what might happen with interest rates.
CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. Prisoner transfer, another last-minute move by the Biden administration. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. In what's being called a controversial move, the Biden administration is transferring more prisoners out of Guantanamo Bay. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
The move is part of an effort that was once a focus of the Obama administration to close Guantanamo Bay. With 15 detainees left there, the prison population was shrunk by nearly half with the release of 11 prisoners to Oman. There were 40 detainees at the start of the Biden administration. In a statement, the Pentagon said the U.S. appreciates the willingness of the government to support the effort to cut the population at Gitmo. All 11 men were taken into custody after the 9/11 terrorist attacks. They were behind bars for more than 2 decades and never were charged or faced trial. Of the 15 prisoners still at the prison, 9 are charged with war crimes. I'm Clayton Neville.
One day after they voted to certify the 2024 presidential election results, the House of Representatives voted on their first piece of federal legislation approved by the 119th Congress. The bill, called the Laken-Riley Act, is named after a nursing student who was killed by an illegal immigrant while jogging on the University of Georgia's campus. The bill would require federal immigration authorities to detain illegal immigrants found guilty of theft-related crimes. It would also allow states to sue the Department of Homeland Security for harm caused to their residents because of illegal immigration. 48 Democrats joined all Republicans to pass the bill, which will now be sent to the Senate. America in the Morning for Wednesday, January 8th, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. Senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
The incoming president isn't ruling out the use of military force to seize control of Greenland. I'm Mike Hempen.
The 39th president lies in state in the Capitol Rotunda. I'm Clayton Neville.
Trudeau reacts to the possibility of a Canada-U.S. merger and horrific discovery inside a JetBlue airplane.
A Republican appeals court judge has challenged the results of the North Carolina Supreme Court election. I'm Sue Aller.
The company behind Facebook and Instagram says they're replacing their third-party fact-checking program. I'm Jennifer King.
3 celebrity couples are leaning into 3 different stages of relationships for 2025. I'm Kevin Carr.
Back after these messages. This is America in the Morning. High winds prompt the evacuation of over 30,000 residents in California. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Brian Thompson.
We already started to see the Santa Ana winds develop across Southern California yesterday from around Los Angeles down through about San Diego, especially in some of the hills surrounding Los Angeles. That's where we were seeing some of the highest gusts, and we're talking about gusts upwards of 60, 70, 80 miles per hour, and that'll be a concern again for today. And the wildfire risk is going to be very high today, as it was yesterday. We started to see some fires even develop yesterday, and any of these fires can spread very rapidly with winds this strong. And the problem is it's been a very dry start to the wet season across Southern California, so that leaves this area very vulnerable for the potential for some wildfires as we head through today, as those Santa Ana winds continue, although things should improve as we head into tomorrow. The rest of the West Coast, pretty quiet today through the Northwest. As we get into the Rockies, across parts of Montana, northern Wyoming, the western Dakotas, there will be some snow around. Also some snow in parts of New Mexico, even West Texas, eastern parts of Arizona. It's pretty chilly air mass setting up, and it's going to be a pretty chilly day across Texas today. And that's going to set the stage for some wintry weather that's going to impact a good chunk of the state very late tonight, especially into the day for tomorrow. But not much through the upper Midwest. We will continue to watch some lake effect snow showers through Michigan and through much of the interior Northeast. But the big story across much of the Northeast is going to be the wind and cold again today. High temperatures in the teens, 20s, maybe closer to 30 along I-95, but that's where some of the strongest winds will be, which will make it feel pretty cold. And it will be quiet across the Southeast. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Brian Thompson.
I'm John Trout. Remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. President-elect Donald Trump held a wide-ranging news conference at his Mar-a-Lago estate discussing a myriad of topics, including legal challenges he's faced, blasting President Biden over claims the transition has been difficult, energy, tariffs, an Emiratis multi-billion-dollar U.S. investment, as well as announcing he wants to rename the Gulf of Mexico to become the Gulf of America. As correspondent Mike Kempen reports, President-elect Trump hasn't given up on taking control of Greenland or the Panama Canal and says military force to secure those objectives is on the table.
Says we're going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which has a beautiful ring that covers a lot of territory. The Gulf of America, what a beautiful name. And it's appropriate. It's appropriate.
The incoming president isn't ruling out the use of military force to seize control of Greenland and the Panama Canal. President-elect Trump says the U.S. needs Greenland for national security purposes.
Well, we need Greenland for national security purposes. I've been told that for a long time, long before I even ran. I mean, people have been talking about it for a long time. You have approximately 45,000 people there. People really don't even know if Denmark has any legal right to it. But if they do, they should give it up.
Greenland is an autonomous territory of Denmark, a longtime U.S. ally. Trump also says the Panama Canal is vital to the U.S.
The Panama Canal is vital to our country. It's being operated by China. China. And we gave the Panama Canal to Panama. We didn't give it to China. And they've abused it. They've abused that gift. It should have never been made, by the way. Giving the Panama Canal is why Jimmy Carter lost the election, in my opinion.
Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen calls the United States Denmark's most important and closest ally. She does not believe the U.S. will use military or economic power to seize control over Greenland. I'm Mike Kempen.
Just 24 hours after he announced he was going to step down as Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau hit back at Donald Trump's call to have Canada merge into the United States. Trudeau posted on social media that, quote, "There isn't a snowball's chance in hell that Canada would become part of the United States," end quote. The president-elect has issued warnings he would impose tariffs on Canadian goods entering America, and other political leaders in Canada are voicing concern that tariffs would harm their nation's economy, while some in the Canadian Parliament have warned they would enact retaliatory tariffs against U.S.-made goods. Canada's Liberal Party, which Trudeau currently leads, will be meeting today to discuss the procedure for choosing Trudeau's replacement. Former President Jimmy Carter was remembered for his progressive agenda during services at the U.S. Capitol in Washington, where he will lie in state until his funeral tomorrow. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
President Jimmy Carter lied in state in the Capitol Rotunda after a service with a long list of family members and members of Congress and distinguished guests.
Jimmy Carter was a forward-looking president with a vision for the future.
Vice President Kamala Harris among those who eulogized the 39th president.
James Earl Carter Jr. loved our country. He lived his faith. He served the people, and he left the world better than he found it.
The Navy band played as the procession stopped at the Navy Memorial. House Speaker Mike Johnson gave President Carter high praise for his work volunteering, specifically with Habitat for Humanity after his presidency.
It's remarkable to think that one of the 45 men who has served as president and one of the only 13 who held the role in the nuclear age would humble himself to such service.
Senate Majority Leader John Thune spoke about how Carter related to the public and had a hands-on approach.
Simply lending his name or maybe attending a gala or two wasn't Jimmy Carter's style. He was here to get down in the weeds and the dirt, and he did that literally on numerous Habitat bills.
Carter will lie in state in the Capitol Rotunda until his funeral on Thursday at the Washington National Cathedral. I'm Clayton Neville.
Tomorrow has been declared a national day of mourning to honor former President Jimmy Carter, a tradition which dates back to 1865 when the government shut down following the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. While most banks and public schools will remain open, Wall Street will be closed to trading, post offices will be closed, along with the large majority of federal offices and all federal courts. Carter's funeral is at the Washington National Cathedral and is expected to be attended by an estimated 3,000 people. Former President Clinton, Bush, Obama, President-elect Trump, and President Biden, who will deliver the eulogy, are all expected to be in attendance. Election ballot challenge in North Carolina, gruesome discovery at a Florida airport. Those stories and more when America in the Morning continues after these messages. I'm John Trout. This is America in the Morning. There was a startling discovery made in Florida after a JetBlue plane landed at the Fort Lauderdale airport. Correspondent Julie Walker reports that 2 bodies were found in the landing gear compartment of the jetliner.
The Broward County Sheriff's Office is investigating after 2 bodies they believe are men were found in the wheel well area of a JetBlue flight at Florida's Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport. The plane had taken off from JFK, and FlightAware tracking shows before that it was in Salt Lake City and Jamaica.
The Broward County Medical Examiner's Office will perform autopsies on the 2 deceased individuals to determine the cause and manner of their deaths. I can share that the 2 individuals are believed to be males. Beyond that, their identities at this point are unknown.
Sheriff spokesman Carrie Codd.
Detectives will investigate and research all aspects of this particular incident, trying to figure out where the flight originated from, where else it had been, the circumstances under which the individuals got onto the plane.
JetBlue says the bodies were found during a routine post-flight maintenance inspection. Last month, a body was found in the wheel well of a United flight from Chicago to Maui. Julie Walker, New York.
The North Carolina Supreme Court voted to block the certification of Democratic Justice Allison Riggs as the winner of her state Supreme Court race, while her GOP opponent challenges the legitimacy of thousands of ballots. Correspondent Sue Aller has the latest.
Voter integrity is a hot topic in Moorhead, North Carolina. Jefferson Griffin, a Republican appeals court judge, has challenged last November's results of the North Carolina Supreme Court election. Democratic Justice Allison Riggs won by a small margin. Griffin has requested a temporary pause on the certification of the results. He is seeking to throw out more than 60,000 ballots, which he claims were unlawfully counted. Sue Shorter, organizer from the Carteret County Blue Dot, spoke to WITN TV.
And I think it's important for all politicians to understand that when they lose, they need to concede graciously and let the country move on.
Craven County GOP Chair Rick Hopkins also spoke with WITN TV.
A number of counties that said, hey, they had illegal voters. Other counties said they didn't. So let's go back and look at it.
This legal battle is significant as it involves the interpretation of state and federal voting laws. The outcome could have broader implications for the state's election process and voter trust. I'm Sue Aller.
2025 is expected to become the start of something big for the United States military. The Navy announced they will be buying 85 new ships to modernize the fleet at a cost of $1 trillion. In plans submitted to Congress, the Navy is set to grow from its current battle force of 296 manned ships to 381 manned vessels, plus 134 unmanned surface and subsurface vehicles by 2045. Stating they are estimates of what their battle force must have to meet the national security needs. According to the Congressional Budget Office, requested and approved shipbuilding budgets from the U.S. Navy are double what they were in 2015, when Congress appropriated $15 billion for new ships to just over $30 billion in last year's federal budget. America in the Morning continues. Well, a man accused of killing a former hockey star and his brother, crashing his car into their bicycles last year, has rejected a plea agreement. Following the case, correspondent Gethin Coolbaugh.
The driver charged with killing NHL hockey player Johnny Gaudreau and his brother Matthew as they cycled on a New Jersey road has pleaded not guilty after turning down a plea agreement. A defense lawyer says that 44-year-old Sean Higgins turned down a proposed 35-year prison sentence over the August 29th deaths. Higgins appeared briefly in court Tuesday in Salem County, New Jersey. The case will now move toward trial. Prosecutors say Higgins had a history of road rage and was impaired after drinking 5 or 6 beers. The charges include aggravated manslaughter, vehicular homicide, and evidence tampering. I'm Gethin Coolbaugh.
On a day when Meta announced it is discontinuing sales of its high-end Quest Pro virtual reality headset, the social networking giant will also be ending the use of a third-party fact-checking system on Facebook, Threads, and Instagram, taking what they're calling a more personalized approach to political content. On the About Face, correspondent Jennifer King has more.
Meta, the company behind Facebook and Instagram, says they're replacing their third-party fact-checking program with a crowdsourced community notes model.
It's just too many mistakes and too much censorship.
CEO Mark Zuckerberg.
The reality is that this is a trade-off. It means we're going to catch less bad stuff, but we'll also reduce the number of innocent people's posts and accounts that we accidentally take down.
In a video statement, Zuckerberg says they'll focus on high-severity violations like terrorism and child sexual exploitation. He also says Meta is moving its content moderation teams from California to Texas and bringing on 3 new board members, including UFC President Dana White, familiar figure in the orbit of President-elect Donald Trump.
The recent elections also feel like a cultural tipping point towards once again prioritizing speech.
Online, the announcement was criticized as a bootlicking campaign, but welcomed by people who felt the platform was suppressing free speech. The Associated Press ended its participation in Meta's fact-checking program a year ago. I'm Jennifer King.
Wednesday Sports is in. Here's America in the Morning's Robert Workman.
Trae Young's half-court jumper at the buzzer gave the Hawks a 124-121 win over the Jazz. It was measured at 49 feet. Timberwolves topped the Pelicans 104-97, but New Orleans did get Zion Williamson back after missing 2 months with a hamstring strain. He had 22 points for Coach Willie Green.
It was great to see him on the floor. A little bit of rust, which is to be expected, but he was tremendous. His gravity allows guys to get open shots, and he'll continue to get better from here.
Hornets eclipsed the Suns to snap a 10-game skid. LaMelo Ball, 32 points. Devin Booker had 39 in the loss for Phoenix. Mavericks drained the Lakers to stop a 5-game slide. Wins for the Rockets, Celtics, and Heat. The last of the college basketball unbeatens has fallen, and I mean like a rock. Number 1 Tennessee got flabbergasted at number 8 Florida, 73-43. The Gators opened the game on a 12-0 run. The Volunteers only made 4 baskets in the entire first half. Maybe looking to move up next week. Number 2 Auburn, number 3 Iowa State, and number 4 Duke were all winners. NHL, the Oilers blanked the Bruins 4-0 for their 4th straight win. 26 saves for Stuart Skinner, 5 consecutive losses for Boston. Red Wings got their 5th win in a row, 3-2 over the Senators in overtime. Stars shaded the Rangers in OT for their 5th straight. Maple Leafs winged the Flyers. Toronto has won its last 5. Victories for the Blue Jackets, Lightning, Wild, Jets, Flames, and Golden Knights. Add another head coaching vacancy to the NFL list. The Raiders fired Antonio Pierce, who showed promise as the interim coach in 2023, going 5-4, but managed just 4 wins in 17 games this season. 6 teams are now in the coaching hunt. That's Wednesday Sports.
Robert Workman on sports. Power couples' toxic relationship when America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Peter Yarrow, 1/3 of the legendary folk music trio Peter, Paul, and Mary, has died at the age of 86. Correspondent Ben Thomas takes a look at how Yarrow and his group impacted 1960s and 70s music.
Peter, Paul, and Mary performing at the March on Washington in August 1963. Become an overnight sensation just the year before when their first album hit number 1 on the Billboard chart. Through the 60s, the trio sang out against war and injustice.
The music itself has a real message.
Yarrow telling the AP in 2003,
"You just have to stand together." And I think that a lot of kids just don't understand. They feel that democracy is a top-down effort. It's top-down and grassroots up.
The trio reunited in 1978, singing together periodically until Mary Travers' death in 2009. Yarrow said the friendship was a close one, something that could be seen on stage.
We stand really close to each other. Unlike other acts, we look at each other when we sing.
Peter Yarrow was 86. I'm Ben Thomas.
3 separate Hollywood couples are in the news this week because of their relationships. Kevin Carr has that story.
This week, Hollywood gave us a look at relationships in 3 acts. While not quite in their honeymoon period, but now closer than ever, we have Tom Holland and Zendaya. At the Golden Globes this weekend, Zendaya sported an eye-catching accessory, a 5-carat engagement ring. She played coy on the red carpet, but many speculated she had become engaged to boyfriend Tom Holland. On Monday, TMZ and People confirmed that Holland proposed to her over Christmas. As a sign of respect, he asked her father's permission months ago.
I never heard it at all.
For the earlier side of a relationship, Broadway stars Hugh Jackman and Sutton Foster were seen holding hands on a dinner date on Monday night, publicly acknowledging their dating. The two have been close ever since they starred together in The Music Man in 2022. Back then, they spoke about their affection for each other on Late Night with Seth Meyers.
I'm having the time of my life playing opposite this guy.
You had to say that,
yeah,
but thank you.
I did.
Thank you.
But it's really it's a dream come true.
And finally, Hollywood does not always offer a happy ending. TMZ reports the power couple Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck have settled their affairs through mediation and asked the judge to finalize their divorce. Full details are not public, but neither star will owe the other spousal support, and Lopez will legally drop the name Affleck. Check back in another 18 years to see if their 20-year itch brings them back together. I'm Kevin Carr.
America in the Morning for Wednesday, January 8th, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. Senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.